So I have another question I want to ask about, and that is about living wills. That is, the plans that big banks are supposed to submit now so that if they start to fail, they could be liquidated without bringing down the economy or needing a taxpayer bailout. Last month, the FDIC and the Fed, as we talked about earlier, sent letters to 11 of the country's biggest banks telling them that their living wills didn't cut it. You said that if these banks failed, either they would need a government bailout or they would bring down the economy. These letters confirmed quite literally that 6 years after the financial crisis, all of our biggest banks remain too big to fail. Now, in your joint statement, you said, and I want to get this right, that by next July, the 11 banks must demonstrate, quote, significant progress to address all the shortcomings identified in the letter. And if the banks don't address significant progress, you told Senator Corker earlier in this hearing, you have tools to force the banks to make changes. And I just want to underline, that means higher capital standards, higher liquidity standards, restrict bank growth, limit bank operations. But these actions take place only if there's not significant progress on the part of the banks. So I just would like the two of you, FDIC and the Fed, just to speak briefly to the question, because I realize I'm out of time here, Mr. Chairman. What constitutes significant in this case? What is it you want to see the too big to fail banks do? And if they don't do it, the action you're going to take. Chairman Gruenberg, maybe we could start with you and then Governor Tarullo.
Senator, we laid out in these letters a pretty specific set of markers for the institutions to meet that I think goes to really some of the key obstacles to orderly resolution of these firms. We directed them in the letters to simplify their legal structures so that they put their business lines in line with their legal entities so that in resolution you can sort the firm out and figure out how to manage the failure. Critical issue is their derivative contracts. Those contracts provide for automatic termination in the event of the beginning of an insolvency proceeding. Those contracts need to be changed in order to avoid the contagion consequences that we saw in 2008 from a disorderly termination of those contracts. We direct in the letters the firms to change those contracts. Critical operations. A firm has got to be able, during the course of a resolution process, to maintain its IT and other critical operations so the whole operation doesn't fall apart. You may have an IT operation in a foreign jurisdiction that could get taken out or not made available as a result of problems by the institution. The institution has to develop backup capabilities to sustain its critical operations. Otherwise, the public ends up having to pick up the slack. Information. The institutions have to be able to produce critical, timely information that's essential to managing a resolution process. The firms right now don't have that capability. So these are specific, measurable actions that we've directed the firms to take. And I think we're going to be looking for these firms to take specific, measurable actions to address these. And they've got a year now. They're on notice. I think we're going to be working closely with these firms so there's clarity of guidance, and we're going to be expecting action. And that's really the whole purpose of this effort.
If I could just underscore that last point that Marty made, Senator, that none of us wants to be in the situation where next July or August there's this issue of, well, we made this progress. Is this significant or is this not significant? Right. And so what Marty just alluded to is the point I was going to make, and I will now underscore, that we have the supervisors from the Fed and the FDIC in the institutions right now, and this will be a process of what are you going to do about this, and wanting to hear in very tangible terms what it is they're doing. And I know at the Fed, I suspect at the FDIC, the boards will be regularly briefed on this so that we'll be in a position to be giving indications that this is what we expected or you guys are already falling short. Because I think what lay behind your question was a concern that next July we get into this palaver of whether progress has been significant or not.
So we're not going to be back here a year from now having the same conversation again. You're prepared to demand that they take these measurable steps, and if they fail to do so, you're going to use your tools to take them for them. Is
Correct.
that right? Good, thank you. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Senator